This has been one of the strongest years for the Nintendo Switch since 2017. We have seen some incredible first-party Nintendo games come out this year, along with third-party games. Granted, there has been some really bad third-party games this year for the Switch. Mortal Kombat 1, Batman Arkham Trilogy, but the Nintendo Switch had such a strong lineup this year. The system has been going strong for almost 7 years now. So it's crazy to see how much support the system is still getting after almost 7 years of having this system, from a first-party perspective and a third-party perspective. But 2023 has also been a rough year for the Nintendo Switch. This has been the year that we've seen the most canceled Nintendo Switch games happen this year. So when I saw that, I was like, I think it would be a pretty cool video idea to go ahead and show off a lot of Nintendo Switch games that got canceled for the system. Because when I was doing research on this video, there is quite a lot out there. So I gathered all the really big games that I think people would be interested in finding out what got canceled for the Switch, and decided to put it all in one video. My name is MONADO Max, and today we are going to be talking about canceled Nintendo Switch games. Obviously there's probably way more canceled Switch games out there that we don't know about because they never got announced, but this is all from the games that we've known that was announced for the system, and speculated, that type of stuff. So we have a pretty good list of games to show off. Starting off, we have our first Nintendo Switch game. And funny enough, this was actually at the reveal of the Nintendo Switch presentation back in 2017 at Japan. By the way, that was such a cool reveal, having all that grand reveal, showing the system off, game reveal after game reveal. That was really cool seeing that there, especially with all the third-party companies there. But we had another game there that was shown off in a highlight reel, basically. It wasn't at the presentation, it was shown for a few seconds running on the Switch with a lot of other third-party games coming to the Switch. That game was Steep. Steep is a Ubisoft IP that Ubisoft had come out in, I believe, 2016 on all other platforms, and they were really big into Steep. They were trying to make this the next big Ubisoft IP. I'm pretty sure back in 2015, I might be wrong, so don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure E3 Ubisoft press conference ended with the reveal of Steep, and they did like a whole 30-minute gameplay demo showing off Steep, and everyone was just bored from it. It was something that Ubisoft was pushing. They were pushing it so hard. They wanted this to be such a successful IP, and unfortunately, while it was a cool game, the interest just wasn't there. There wasn't enough people wanting to buy this game, and it did not sell very well. And I think it's important to remember when I say sales did not go well for a game, because we're going to see this brought up in a lot of other games throughout this list. Steep was revealed for the Nintendo Switch back in January 2017. We saw it a few more times after that, and then all of a sudden, we're in like the summer of 2017. We're not hearing anything about Steep. We expected that to be at the Ubisoft E3 conference, and there was no Steep reveal. In fact, there's rumors coming out that apparently Steep is running very bad on the Switch, that Ubisoft is struggling to get Steep on the Nintendo Switch. So this brings a lot of concern. In fact, I believe Steep was one of the first games out there that people started realizing, oh wow, the Switch is actually not a powerful console. This is not going to be good for third-party games in the future. We did not hear anything about Steep after that article came out that the game was struggling to run. It apparently was like 20 frames per second is what they were able to get it to, according to rumors. And then somebody tweeted at the Steep account, Coleman's going to show an image of this about like where's Steep for the Switch. This is in 2018, and they announced through a Twitter reply that Steep got canceled for the Nintendo Switch. That is how Ubisoft and Steep announced that they would no longer be on the Nintendo Switch, which is crazy to think. I believe Steep is the only game that we never got to come out for the Switch during that whole Nintendo Switch presentation. A few things to note with this. Could Steep actually run on the Switch? I don't know. You know, we've seen the Nintendo Switch do the impossible with the right company of getting certain games running on the Switch. Games that would be considered impossible. And we've also seen games that just still come out on the Switch and it is horrible. I'm wondering if Ubisoft just didn't want to put the money and time into properly putting Steep onto the Nintendo Switch, since Steep did not do well on other platforms. They saw the performances on other consoles and realized, does it make sense to put all the money and effort that we're putting Steep onto the Nintendo Switch when it's just going to sell worse than the other platforms? I think a combination of the system being able not to run it properly and time/money was the reason why we did not get Steep on the Nintendo Switch. I think it could have come to the Switch. It was just going to cost more money, and money that just did not make sense for this IP. And we're probably not going to see Steep ever come back on consoles. I mean, we've seen Ubisoft try to experiment with that type of genre, and every time they do it, it just doesn't work out for them. So I think it's an interesting story. It's interesting that out of all Ubisoft games, that's what they wanted to put on the Switch when the system was first coming out, because Ubisoft was talking very highly of the console when it was called Nintendo NX. So the whole thing, very interesting, very, very interesting. Now this one actually has a sad story on why it never came out on the Switch. So there was this game called Deliver Us the Moon. That was on all platforms, and it was announced in 2018 that it was going to come to the Nintendo Switch. A lot of people was excited because a lot of people really liked this game. It looked like a really good space game. I've never played it before, but when I was doing research on this video, it looked like a genuinely fun game. But the reason why it did not come to Switch is really sad. They had to announce the cancellation of this game back in June 2020 because due to COVID, they did not have any more money to bring this game out. They had to cancel it due to financial problems, which just sucks to see. It sucks to see something like that not happen due to, financial problems. It was really unfortunate, and I'm sure a lot of games struggled with that during the COVID timeline. But it looks like the game was going to be able to run on Switch. Again, it's just they did not have money to put it out on Switch. I don't know what happened to this company. I did see that they put it out as like a PlayStation 5 updated remastered version. So I think the company's still going. But it is a very unfortunate situation to see something like that. And I think a lot of people would have liked this game on Switch because the reviews for this game has been very positive. In fact, I think it's something I'm going to look into playing soon because of the footage that I saw of this game. Looked pretty good. It looked like it looked like what Starfield should have been. A good game. This one is an unfortunate one that got canceled because the developers of this was actually really hyping up the Switch version. We never saw the Switch version, but they were telling everyone, similar to like Hogwarts Legacy, the developers of Hogwarts Legacy was saying the Switch version is going to surprise people. People that developed this game said the same thing. The Evil Dead game unfortunately got canceled for the Nintendo Switch. That game just came out on all platforms last year in May, and they announced in September 2023 that they are canceling the Switch version and also canceling any development plans for future platforms, and like all future updates for the game was being scrapped. And I'm very sad about it because this looked like a game that was going to be impossible to run on Switch, but the developers assured everyone that this is going to surprise people. Unfortunately, what it comes down to be why this game got canceled is, well, the sales for the game was pretty good, but I believe what ended up happening, it's a fully online game, and I believe the interest died pretty fast after it sold so well. I guess the developers just did not want to pay for the licensing of these characters anymore, because the Evil Dead rights, if you look into the rights of that and how much rights you have to pay for, it's ridiculous, but they probably had to spend a lot of money with the amount of things that they used from Evil Dead into this Evil Dead game. The funny thing that I want to talk about that really doesn't have anything to do with the Switch, but this is the only time I'm going to be able to talk about this story. If you don't know who Bruce Campbell is, Coleman's going to show a photo. Bruce Campbell is Ash Williams, of course. I mean, you obviously have to know who that is if you know anything about Evil Dead. I met Bruce Campbell a few times. I have met him a lot at conventions. He is one of my favorite actors. I think he is a funny person. I love some of the roles like Burn Notice. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Ash. I loved Ash vs. Evil Dead. A lot of people did not like that show, but I liked it. Unfortunately, so I met him in when this happened. I met him, I believe, at the end of 2018. Basically, we were all wondering if season 4 of Ash vs. Evil Dead was going to happen. Unfortunately, it got canceled, and Bruce Campbell said if the show gets canceled, he's done playing Ash. He is retiring from playing Ash. It will never happen ever, ever again. And I decided to ask him, like, because there was Evil Dead games at the time, we hadn't seen one in a very long time. I asked him when I met him at a convention, I was like, Bruce, I know you said you're done playing Ash. but would there be any chance you would voice him down the road again, or are you just done altogether? And then Bruce Campbell proceeds to be like, yeah, I'm actually voicing him right now. We're working on this game. It's not going to be out for a few years from now. But yeah, I'm voicing Ash. It's going to be coming on all platforms. It's actually a really cool concept of the game. Very excited for it. I don't think I was supposed to tell you that. So yeah, there's your exclusive information. I was like, and he told me it's like 2018. And this game didn't come out until like last year. So I thought it was so cool. I remember being there for the Game Awards when the game actually got revealed. I was freaking out. I was the only one in the call. And I was telling Coleman, like, I was told about this game years ago. So it was cool because I knew of this game's existence years ago. And here it is now. And it's about to be a dead project. It's unfortunate that it never came to the Switch, as, you know, I think it's cool that Bruce Campbell would have been on Nintendo Switch in some form. Bruce Campbell's one of my favorite actors, so, yeah, this was a sad thing to see that it's not coming to the Switch, unfortunately. And I'm just curious to see what it looked like because the developers are hyping it up. I think this would have been an amazing game to be on Nintendo Switch, but is unfortunately one of the many canceled Nintendo Switch games. Alright, the next one is probably one that not a lot of people realized was actually supposed to come to the Switch. This one had been heavily rumored for Nintendo NX when it was called Nintendo NX. If you guys did not know, there was two third-party developers that was very intrigued by the Nintendo Switch. Or I guess Nintendo NX at the time. It was Ubisoft and Square Enix. So Square Enix immediately tried getting all of their big AAA games onto the system, but they were struggling to get games on the system. One of those games being Final Fantasy 15. Now, this game was never officially announced for the Switch. However, the director of Final Fantasy 15 has already came out and said back in 2017 that they were trying to get the game on Nintendo Switch, but the game just did not have a good frame rate. It was not able to run good enough for them to release on Switch. The director wasn't happy with it. So they never released it for the Switch because of that. And this was back in 2017, very early years of the Switch. Could they have gotten it now on the Switch, maybe after a few years of actually specifically making a Switch version? I think it's possible. But what Square Enix and the director of Final Fantasy 15 decided to do instead was make the Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition. This was really meant for the Switch specifically, and then they decided to put it out on all platforms. But the only reason why the Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition exists on the Switch is just due to the fact that they tried to get Final Fantasy 15 on the Switch. It was impossible in their eyes. It just wasn't good quality is what the director said. So they canceled the Final Fantasy 15 version. Now, I know this wasn't officially revealed, but I feel like with the story of what the director said and the fact that they admitted that that's what Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition was, I feel like this should count as a canceled Nintendo Switch game. Even though we didn't get any official gameplay, official reveal, anything like that, we knew it was coming, and especially from the leaks and the director himself, I'm counting it on this list. That might be controversial for some, but I'm counting that as a canceled Nintendo Switch game. And like I said, there's probably many more of situations like this. It's just we don't know many of those. This is like a rare situation that we find out about. Now this one is very interesting. So Konami was actually working on a Nintendo Switch exclusive game. They revealed it back at E3 June 2018. And this was when Konami was kind of making a comeback in the gaming scene. For whatever reason, Konami saw the Smash Bros. Ultimate Snake reveal as a way to come back to making games again. So when they were at E3 for the Smash reveal, they went ahead and announced their own game. It was called Hyper Sports R. This was a Switch exclusive. It was revealed at E3 2018. You can actually find the website right now. The website is still running on this game. There's still information out there. It's going to be made specifically for the Switch. E3 2018 is where it happened, and then after that event, we never heard about the game ever again. We knew it was a Switch exclusive. There's gameplay out there, I think, and we heard absolutely nothing about it. Until 2 years later, June 2020, they announced that Hyper Sports R is going to be canceled for the Nintendo Switch due to unforeseen circumstances. That is all that we got from it. I don't think it was a hardware problem. It might have just been Konami doesn't know how to do things, because if you saw what they did with the Metal Gear Solid collection, I think it's safe to say they don't know what to do. They don't know what to do. Konami is not the same and will probably never ever be the same We'll see how those Silent Hill remakes work out for them. No one really cared about it because it wasn't what people wanted from Konami. It was just weird overall, but it's interesting that the website is still running 3 years after the cancellation. I'm surprised they're still paying for that. This one, I guess, isn't a surprise, but this one really hurt me because this game, from what I've played so far, I was really enjoying. And I was like, oh man, this is going to be great for the Switch. By the way, if you're hearing all that noise, they're setting up a TV downstairs. The next game is Marvel's Midnight Suns. Oh, it still hurts me that this got canceled. So this was supposed to come out with the other platforms of the game. The weird part surrounding Midnight Suns was, at the time, it was only announced for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and Nintendo Switch. There was no PlayStation 4 or Xbox One versions in development, and at the time it was not ever announced. So people was like, how are they going to put this on the Switch if they're not going to put it on the other platforms out there? It was a giant confusion for a lot of people. And when the game came out, the game got delayed multiple times. It was supposed to come out in 2021 from my understanding. Then it got delayed into early 2022, mid 2022, into later being late 2022. And when the game finally got its final release date, they announced that the Switch version would come out next year. That we're already here at next year. May 2023 comes and they announced the cancellation of the Nintendo Switch version. And weirdly enough, with the announcement of that, they announced that the game would be coming to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. I think there's a few things surrounding this. One, I think the Switch hardware is definitely a big reason to why we never got Midnight Suns for the Switch, because Midnight Suns, I think it can run in some stages of the game, but there's some parts that I was playing, I was like, I wonder how they're going to do that on the Switch. Because there's some things in this game that's pretty impressive what it can do. It truly feels like kind of like a next-gen game in terms of some of the things that you can do in Midnight Suns. But the whole concept of the game, I'm guessing, is what made them want to put it on Switch, because it's XCOM meets Marvel, basically, with a lot of other attributes to the game. And unfortunately, they canceled the Switch port, and I think there's multiple reasons, with the hardware being one of them, and I think it was due to the poor sales of the game. The game, unfortunately, did not do well. It was only a next-gen exclusive, which this was at the time that, now you can get a PlayStation 5 and Series X whenever you want, but you still were struggling to find it last year. It was a lot easier, but it still was a struggle. And I think that Marvel and 2K decided to cancel the Switch version, put the time and effort that they were putting into that, and making a PlayStation 4 and Xbox One version of the game. And ultimately, I think they saw more money in the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One versions than the Switch version, because everybody was already worried how this game was going to look on Switch. It was going to be cheaper to do that rather than make a full-on Switch port. A Switch port that probably, unfortunately, was not going to be good. It sucks. I wanted this on Switch. This is probably the most disappointing announcement out of all of them for me. Next up is one that a lot of people still don't know actually got canceled for Nintendo Switch, because I'm actually seeing that you can still pre-order this game at other places. So if you're watching this video and you just found out about this being canceled, well, I'm so sorry to break it to you. But RoboCop Rogue City was a game that was supposed to come out for Nintendo Switch. Now, this game got delayed. I believe this game got revealed about a year ago. I honestly don't remember. I remember seeing the grand reveal for this game, but it's been so long, it feels like. But this was announced for all platforms, and it was supposed to come out June of this year. They had to delay the game, though, and when they delayed the game to November is when it came out. When they announced the delay for that, they went ahead and canceled the Switch port. They announced that they were silent about it. You had to go through people to find out about it, but they also said that the Switch version was getting canceled also. So unfortunately, this game did not come to Nintendo Switch, and if you play the game, see the game, I think it makes sense. That's a heavy-duty game right there, and I think it's one of those things that they knew just did not make sense to put on the Switch. Kind of like Evil Dead. That game's going to die out. By the time they make the Switch version of RoboCop, the game's going to be dead. It's not going to sell well. If you notice the trend with all this, they're trying to get all these games out that we're talking about today. We're all supposed to come out the same day as other platforms. And when they get delayed, they inevitably get canceled, because by the time they put these games on Switch, no one's going to want to pay the $60 when you can pay $20 for the other versions out there. that's been out way longer than the Switch version. I think that's what they kind of came down to. I don't know if it could have ran on Switch. It looks like a very heavy-duty graphic demanding game, so I'm not sure. I mean, I feel like they had some sort of idea of how it could run if they were going to announce it for the Switch, and it being a few months away from game release for them to announce the cancellation. So maybe they actually had a decent version out there. Now, the last game that we're going to talk about has not been canceled yet, but in all honesty, it is more than likely to get canceled because it was supposed to already be out right now, and we still haven't found out why it's not out yet. The last game we're going to be talking about is the Lord of the Rings Golem. Now, this game is going to be scrapped for multiple reasons. If it gets scrapped, I'm like 95% sure it's getting canceled. This game can run on Switch. It's just going to take a lot more money, similar to how Hogwarts Legacy got delayed multiple times. It inevitably got running on the Switch and was really decent. I believe that Warner Brothers is trying to do the same thing with Lord of the Rings Golem. The problem is now is Lord of the Rings Golem is not a good game. The game came out, it was reviewed one of the worst games of all time, and it has sold absolutely poorly. I don't think that this is going to come out because it just doesn't make sense to put the money into the Switch port because no one's going to buy it. No one bought it on the other consoles. Everyone hated the game. Everyone's looking at it as one of the worst games of all time. It's going to get scrapped for the Switch. It was supposed to come out in December, and we've heard nothing about it. We're in December right now, and nothing has come out about it. The next announcement about this game is that it's gonna be scrapped for the Nintendo Switch. So that's my prediction, and it just doesn't make sense to put the money for a game that's already sold poorly in a game that no one's going to buy. And it's probably actually going to be a good Switch port. I kind of have faith in Warner Brothers, but then at the same time I don't because they helped do Mortal Kombat 1 and Batman, Arkham Trilogy, but then they also did the Hogwarts Legacy thing, so I'm like, maybe they can make history happen. Well, guys, that is all the major big Nintendo Switch games that I could find that got canceled. Do you like what got canceled? Are you upset? What are one of the games that you really wish did not get canceled? I have a feeling the comments is really going to be saying Final Fantasy 15 and maybe Midnight Suns. I don't know. Midnight Suns is such a good game. It's just a lot of people didn't get a chance to play it, and I know a lot of people was actually waiting for the Switch version for that because of the type of game that it was. So I'm curious to see what you guys think. And if I ever see more canceled Nintendo Switch games, if I get some exclusive info, would you guys like to see a part 2 to this? I don't think there's going to be room for a part 2 though, because there's not many more out there, and we've kind of talked about all the really, really big games today. But I mean, with the Switch still being an ongoing system, going into next year, I guess it's possible we could see more canceled Switch games because, like I said, this is the most canceled Switch games we saw this year. So I guess there's potential room for more. Who knows? But make sure to backslash that subscribe button. If you heard the background noise, I'm very sorry. Like I said, people are setting up a TV downstairs. They were supposed to be here 4 hours ago, and they decided to show up while I'm filming the video because, people, But make sure to backslash that subscribe button. Follow me on Twitter. Check out the Discord server. Become a MONADO Marine. $5 a month. It's going to be the best $5 a month that you've ever spent. Guaranteed. And whatever else in the description, Instagram, all that good stuff. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace. I wonder if people are going to care about the story of what I said about Bruce Campbell. Probably no one's going to care. I don't know why I talked about it. But at the same time, I would have never been able to talk about that story on this channel. Because when's the next time I'm going to talk about Evil Dead on this channel? Probably never, ever again.